They told you your spending problem was personal, a discipline problem, a self-control problem, a you just need to budget better problem. That story is simple, and that is exactly why people believe it. But it is also deeply misleading, because if you look closely at modern life, a different truth starts to appear. You are surrounded by systems, apps, interfaces, and incentives designed to make spending feel normal, easy, deserved, and almost automatic. Not buying feels like missing out. Waiting feels outdated. Thinking feels slow. Impulse feels natural. That is not an accident. It is design. And once you see it, you start realizing something uncomfortable. You are not just trying to manage money. You are trying to manage yourself inside an environment built to weaken pause, increase temptation, and turn your emotions into revenue. Albert Einstein once said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And that is exactly the trap. Most people are trying to fix their finances without understanding the battlefield they are standing on. They think they are fighting bad habits. In reality, they are fighting a system that has been carefully optimized to make those habits more likely. The modern economy does not simply allow overspending. In many ways, it depends on it. Think about that. What happens if millions of people suddenly become patient, content, emotionally self-aware, and resistant to impulse? What happens if they stop clicking so fast, upgrading so often, renewing so blindly, and buying every time they feel bored, stressed, or behind? A lot of profitable businesses would feel it immediately. Because this system does not make the most money when you are calm. It makes the most money when you are restless. Restlessness is profitable. Dissatisfaction is profitable. Comparison is profitable. Impulse is profitable. And your attention is where it all begins. Before you buy something, a lot has usually already happened. You saw something. You felt something. You compared something. You started imagining something.
That is how modern spending works, not by selling you products first, by shaping emotion first, then identity, then desire, and only after that comes the purchase. That is why people so often buy things they do not actually need. They are not buying objects. They are buying relief, status, comfort, reward, hope, progress, a version of themselves that feels more in control. And the system knows this. It knows when you are tired. It knows when you are insecure. It knows when you are lonely. It knows when you are easiest to convert. Because a tired human being does not make decisions the same way a clear human being does. After a long day, your brain is not chasing long-term wisdom. It is chasing relief. That is when the expensive dinner feels deserved. That is when the random online order feels harmless. That is when buy now, pay later feels clever instead of dangerous. That is when canceling a subscription feels like too much work. That is when convenience quietly wins over judgment. And the dangerous part is that none of this feels dramatic. It feels normal. That is why it works so well. Most financial damage does not arrive through one giant mistake. It arrives through small, polished, emotionally justified decisions that repeat over time. A delivery fee here, a renewal there, a premium version, a faster shipping option, a small reward, a monthly app, an upgrade you barely questioned. Each one feels too small to matter, but the system loves the phrase, "It's not that much." Because not that much, repeated often enough, becomes a massive leak. And those leaks are hard to notice because modern spending has been designed to feel lighter, smoother, and less painful than ever. Cash made spending feel real. You had to hold it, count it, hand it over, feel it leave. Now compare that to tapping a screen twice while half distracted. One feels like loss. The other barely feels like anything. And that difference matters. Because when payment becomes abstract, spending becomes easier.
Cards made spending easier. Digital wallets made it smoother. Auto-pay made it invisible. Subscriptions turned active decisions into background noise. Buy now, pay later separated desire from consequence. This is not just convenience, it is behavioral engineering. The less pain you feel in the moment, the less likely you are to resist. That is why so many people spend heavily without feeling reckless. Nothing about the moment feels reckless. Everything feels frictionless. And friction, ironically, is often what protects you. A healthy system would create pause before important decisions. This one removes pause. It encourages speed. Click now. Only a few left. Limited time. Ends tonight. Bestseller. Easy returns. One tap. Done. The less you think, the better the system performs. That is why convenience is not always your friend. Sometimes convenience is just camouflage, a beautiful way of lowering your resistance. And once you add identity into the picture, the trap gets even stronger. Because people do not spend only to solve practical problems. They spend to manage how they feel about themselves, to feel successful, to look current, to avoid embarrassment, to belong, to feel like their life is moving forward. That is why someone under financial pressure can still feel a strong urge to look polished. That is why someone anxious can still justify comfort purchases. That is why someone who feels behind can buy symbols of progress instead of building the real thing. A lot of spending is not about the item, it's about the emotional meaning attached to the item. You're not buying a jacket, you're buying confidence. You're not buying the newest phone, you're buying the feeling that you are not falling behind. You're not buying the expensive meal, you're buying temporary relief from stress and the illusion that you are still enjoying life like everyone else. And social media has made this much worse. Comparison used to be local. Now it's industrial. You no longer compare yourself to a few neighbors or coworkers. You compare yourself to thousands of curated lives. Better apartments, better trips, better routines, better clothes, better bodies, better lighting, better everything. Even when you know it's filtered, your nervous system still reacts. It still feels behind. And once that feeling is activated, the system is ready. Ads start following you. Recommendations get sharper. Urgency appears. Social proof appears. Testimonials appear. The exact product that promises to fix the feeling suddenly shows up everywhere. That is not random. That is emotional interception. A feeling gets triggered, a product gets attached to it, and the space between discomfort and purchase is shortened as much as possible. That is the model. Your insecurity enters an auction and brands bid on it. That may sound dramatic. It's also accurate. Because in the attention economy, your emotions are not just experiences, they're monetizable events. Stress is monetizable. Boredom is monetizable. Loneliness is monetizable. Low self-worth is monetizable. Decision fatigue is monetizable. That is why telling people to just use self-control is not enough. Self-control matters, yes, but self-control is fragile when the environment is designed to drain it. Willpower is a battery. Modern life uses that battery all day. By the time many people need it most, there is not much left. That is why awareness matters more. Awareness does not make you perfect, but it changes the game. Because once you can name what is happening, the spell weakens. Not completely, but enough to matter, enough to pause before the click, enough to wait, enough to ask a better question. Do I really want this, or do I want the feeling I think this will give me?
That question alone can save people thousands. Because most bad purchases are emotionally loud and logically quiet. They come with urgency and permission. I deserve this. I've had a hard week. It's a small thing. I'll be more careful next month. This will make life easier. This is the last time. That language is not neutral. It is emotional cover. It is the mind protecting a decision that already happened below the surface. And the system is excellent at giving you moral-sounding reasons to spend. Treat yourself. Upgrade your life. Don't settle. You deserve better. Notice how often spending is framed as self-respect. That is powerful. Because once consumption starts feeling like dignity, resistance gets harder. No one wants to feel deprived. No one wants to feel left behind. No one wants to feel cheap. So people buy. Not just products, stories. Stories about who they are, who they want to be, and what kind of life they believe they should already have. That is one reason earning more money does not automatically solve the problem. If the emotional pattern stays the same, more income often just funds a more expensive version of the same behavior. The person who soothed stress with small purchases may soothe stress with luxury ones. The person who chased status through brands may simply upgrade the brands. The person who lived reactively may continue reacting, just at a higher price point. That is why some people make more every year and still feel trapped. The cage got softer, that's all. This is what lifestyle inflation often really is. Not freedom, just upgraded captivity. And the system is patient. It does not need to ruin you fast. It can slowly drain you. In fact, slowly is better. Slow feels safe. Slow feels manageable. Slow gives you hope that next month will be different. After the holidays, after the bonus, after this stressful phase, after this one big purchase. But life rarely calms down on its own. The system makes sure there is always another offer, another upgrade, another subtle message telling you that your current life is not enough yet. And if you do not interrupt that rhythm, you will spend your life reacting to fatigue, reacting to marketing, reacting to comparison, reacting to stress, reacting to fear of missing out. Reaction is profitable. Reflection is dangerous, because the moment you begin reflecting clearly, you become harder to move. You start noticing patterns. You notice how often you spend when tired, not convinced. How often you click because something is easy, not valuable. How often you justify purchases with emotional language instead of financial clarity. That is a turning point. Because once you see the pattern, you stop calling it personality. You stop saying, I'm just bad with money. Maybe you are not. Maybe you have been living inside a system that rewards impatience, monetizes insecurity, and trains your brain to connect emotion with spending. That does not remove responsibility. It sharpens it. Because now the game is visible. And once the game is visible, you can respond differently. Not perfectly, but consciously. You do not beat a system like this just by trying harder in random emotional moments. You beat it by becoming harder to influence unconsciously, by slowing down when the system wants speed, by adding friction where the system removed it, by delaying the purchase long enough for the feeling to cool, by refusing to let every bad day become a shopping queue, by asking what you are really buying: the item, the identity, the relief, the signal, the distraction. That is real financial power. Not becoming someone who never spends, becoming someone who is no longer easy to program. Someone who can feel an urge without obeying it. Someone who can feel behind without buying a costume of progress. Someone who can feel discomfort without immediately translating that discomfort into a transaction. That is freedom. Quiet freedom. The kind no ad can sell you. Einstein might have looked at the modern consumer world and said, "The problem is not that irrationality exists. The problem is that irrationality has been industrialized." And that is exactly what this system does. It industrializes dissatisfaction. It industrializes comparison. It industrializes impulse. It industrializes spending. It does not need your destruction, only your participation. And it works best when you are too distracted to see it, too tired to resist it, and too emotionally stirred to question it. That is why awareness is so dangerous to the system, because awareness interrupts the smoothness. It creates space, and in that space, your real power begins. The space between feeling and spending, between wanting and buying, between seeing and reacting. That space is where financial dignity lives, not in perfection, not in shame, not in extreme restriction, in awareness. So yes, the system was designed to keep you spending. It was designed to make speed feel smart, convenience feel harmless, debt feel manageable, upgrades feel necessary, and emotional purchases feel justified. That part is true. But the system was also built around one assumption, that you would never fully notice, that you would stay distracted, that you would stay reactive, that you would keep mistaking designed behavior for personality. And maybe your financial life changes the moment that assumption stops being true. Maybe the breakthrough is not the next raise, not the next app, not the perfect budget. Maybe it is the moment you stop saying, "This is just how I am," and start saying, "I've been living inside a machine that profits when I do not pay attention." That sentence changes everything, because now the pattern has a name. Now the manipulation has shape. Now the invisible becomes visible. And once you see the machine clearly, you can stop calling it your nature. You can stop obeying every urge like it came from your true self. You can stop confusing convenience with wisdom and desire with necessity. And that is where freedom begins.